Two crucial topics in this video cast. First, Mitch needs to switch. And I have 8 names of people that I believe President Trump should appoint to a citizen coronavirus economic recovery task force. I'm Lee Spieckerman, and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell needs to switch to a sense of urgency and a spirit of collaboration so that we can pass what they're calling Phase 4, which is the next coronavirus emergency economic rescue bill. We have got to have a new wave of government payments to the middle class to enable them to stay afloat through this crisis, which is no fault of theirs. $1,200 per middle class adult, $500 per middle class child. So we've got to fund that. We also need to fix how we're paying the unemployment benefits, the special federal unemployment benefits to those out of work due to this crisis, and how we're paying out money to rescue small businesses that have been so severely impaired by this crisis. As I said in my last video, and I outlined it there, you can see the details, we are not getting the money into the people's hands who need it nearly fast enough. So a lot of middle-class families, a lot of small businesses are going to go right off a cliff if we don't change how we're paying out that money, as I outlined in my previous video. We also need to rescue the American energy industry from this price war, this predatory pricing of Saudi Arabia and Russia. It's being portrayed as a price war between those two countries. What it really is the leading nation in OPEC, Saudi Arabia and Russia, trying to wreck the American oil industry so that we are not in a position to play a huge role in the world oil industry. Well, here's my solution to that. I believe we should pass a 50% tariff on oil imports from OPEC and from Russia. That would yield, even if oil prices normalize a little bit, that would yield over $10 billion a year in revenue. Now, here's how we make that appealing to environmentally conscious and fossil fuel hating Democrats. We use a lot of that $10 billion to fund a new tax credit for everyone who buys an electric car, a zero-emission car. And again, we're not just doing that because these cars are zero emission. If they are electric, that means we're not having to import the oil to make gasoline for those cars. That means that the United States, instead of just only importing a few million barrels of oil a day, we can import no oil, which would tremendously bolster our national security and be great for our economy, because that money, instead of flowing to OPEC and Russia, would be staying in our economy to fuel the creation of American jobs. I also think that President Trump should compromise on his plans to roll back President Obama's auto emission and auto fuel economy standards, because if we sell a lot more electric cars in this country, which again is great for our national security, great for our economy, we're going to more than meet those emissions and fuel economy standards. So that is not something worth killing a deal over. Now, infrastructure. There are not that many shovel-ready jobs. So an infrastructure bill is not going to be a solution to our immediate unemployment crisis due to the coronavirus. But what it will do is instill confidence in the markets, and it will provide an intermediate and long-term backstop to our job market. And finally, long-term, it will create a much more productive and competitive U.S. economy. We are going to get past this coronavirus crisis unless we're really stupid and don't do what we need to do. So let's prepare our economy for long-term success. And in addition to repairing crumbling roads and bridges and rebuilding antiquated airports, let's use this infrastructure bill to bring America into the forefront of transportation. Instead of being a laggard on high-speed trains, let's use this investment to make America the leader in high-speed trains. And we can do it. America developed the Hyperloop high-speed trains. Hyperloop trains are much faster than the Japanese technology bullet trains, the TGV trains, much faster, and they cost 1/5 as much per mile to build. 1/5 as much. That's a great way for the United States to leapfrog the world and be the leader in high-speed transportation, ground transportation. We can also make our highways the most autonomous, car-friendly roadways in the world. And that is great because autonomous cars are electric, they're zero emission, emissions. So again, the Democrats will like that. It will vastly reduce congestion in our big cities, make quality of life much better for our citizens, and of course, dramatically improve the productivity of our economy. So we can build highways with autonomous cars designed in to the construction, and that would be great all the way around for this country. So I hope Mitch McConnell and the Republicans will take yes for an answer from Nancy Pelosi on infrastructure, because she is now agreeing with President Trump that we need a $2 trillion infrastructure bill. So let's make that happen while we can, while we have this unique opportunity and this unique spirit of collegiality, and do that for the future of our country. Now, as to the 8 names, I believe we need a task force to advise President Trump and to help further mobilize the private sector to win the peace, so to speak, in this coronavirus war. When we finally defeat that virus, we're going to have a very damaged economy, and we are going to need to recover, bring back jobs, bring back incomes, get that mighty American economic machine running again as quickly as possible. And we need great economic expertise from a wide range of industries and with a wide range of experience to bolster President Trump's brain trust on that. I mean, obviously, President Trump was a very successful businessman, and he's got some brilliant business people and economic thinkers in his White House. But we need a broader cross-section. We need some top-level people from the private sector to assist in this Herculean effort of restarting the American economy after we defeat this coronavirus. Here are the names I recommend. Dan DiMicco, already someone close to President Trump. He was a former head of Nucor Steel and led Nucor to become the mightiest steel company in the United States and in the world. Dina Powell, who was a counselor to President Trump early in his administration, a Goldman Sachs alum, and she's a brilliant person from the private sector, also tremendous government experience, and has really been focused on helping female entrepreneurs get started and succeed in the United States and around the world. So I think Dina Powell would be terrific. Robert Johnson, who founded the BET cable network and is a super investor and has invested in car dealerships, many other businesses, very plugged into the economy, very much on the ground floor of where this economy is. So Robert Johnson would be terrific. Alan Mulally, who was the CEO of Ford during the Great Recession and was smart enough to position Ford financially so that was the one American auto company that didn't need a bailout. And he's a brilliant engineer, understands the aerospace industry. He worked at Boeing for many years, understands the auto industry, just a very smart and a wonderful man. Meg Whitman, who used to be CEO of eBay, certainly understands the e-commerce business, the digital commerce realm better than just about anybody. A very important voice to have in this kind of task force. Dick Parsons, who ran Time Warner. He's been involved in all kinds of businesses. He's run a medium-sized bank in New York. He's really a statesman of American business. So I think Dick Parsons and his ability to bring people together and forge consensus would be a tremendous asset to this board. Bob Iger, the brilliant, outgoing CEO of Disney. Obviously, Disney has been particularly hard hit by this crisis because theme parks are a big part of their business. They have cruise ships and even their television business, their TV networks, ESPN, ABC. While they've gotten a lot of viewers, certainly ABC, through the crisis, the fall off in advertising is certainly hurting their revenue. So he really understands what the challenges are in a variety of industries, and he's just a very talented CEO, and he's on his way out from Disney, retiring, so hopefully he would come in and join this kind of task force. And finally, Oscar Munoz, who's the outgoing CEO of United Airlines, brilliant airline executive, great communicator, and obviously the airline industry is probably, other than the restaurant industry, has been the hardest hit business in this entire economy because of the coronavirus. So he understands that very well. He understands business. So Dan DiMicco, Dina Powell, Robert Johnson, Alan Mulally, Meg Whitman, Dick Parsons, Bob Iger, and Oscar Munoz. I think that would be the great eight for a citizen coronavirus economic recovery task force. So I hope Republicans listen to this, heed this, that we move on this phase 4, the next phase of the coronavirus economic rescue bill, that we take yes for an answer on infrastructure. And I hope President Trump names these great 8 folks to a economic recovery task force to accelerate our recovery. So let's move.